What's up, everybody? Thank you for clicking on the link. Fair Play here, and I am about to do my review of Wednesday night's episode of Queen Sugar, Season 2, Episode 6, entitled Line of Our Elders. Y'all, let me tell you, this week's episode was extremely deep and poignant, and I emotionally connected to this episode more than I have any other episode between the two seasons of Queen Sugar. I don't know where they're going from here, because when the episode ended, my first question was like, okay, so what now? Where do they go from here? So much went on with this episode, and the main person, the focus of pretty much everything in the episode was probably Charlie. We began to see what Charlie's real motives are, even though we probably saw it before now, but it came to a head, or to a climax, Wednesday night, which I just saw actually last night, and I saw it in depth, and I was like, oh my God, it's so much in these 43 minutes. But yeah, Charlie is the focus of attention on this particular episode. Her chickens are coming home to roost, and the people that are important to her and everything that she thought was important to her is really causing her to see herself for who and what she is. There was even a truth revealed about Nova, where their father was concerned in this episode. But in Darla, it's like everybody's truth, or some of their truths, were coming to the surface on this particular episode. You know, last night, or Wednesday night's episode, almost seemed like a season finale. So I'm thinking, if they jumped all into this, what's going to happen next week? I didn't see any previews because I was watching a recording of it, of course. And the previews for next week were cut off of that recording. But, oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm kind of glad, because I don't really want to know what's going to happen next week. But let me tell you, it was deep. So let me go ahead on and get started. When the episode first comes on, you got Ralph Angel and Nova. They are on what I believe, or at the time that I was watching, I believed it was the burial site of the Bordelon family. So the title, Line of Our Elders, for the first time, it kind of fit in with at least one thing that happened on the episode. Because if y'all remember on my last video recording, I'm like, these titles that they're making, that they're giving these episodes, I don't really understand the connection between it. Maybe I'm slow, but I don't get it. But I get the connection this time. Well, anyway, they're standing out on what I begin to realize is probably the burial plots and property of the Bordelon family. All the Bordelon members that have died, I guess, in the past century or whatever. It was about 20 or 30 of them listed on a sign. And it showed their births and deaths. And Charlie and Ralph Angel were having a moment. They were out there, I guess, reminiscing or reflecting on some things. And it was a peaceful, quiet moment. And while they were out there, Ralph Angel was just looking off. Charlie wasn't there, of course. Nova takes her phone, and I kept saying Charlie, but I mean Nova and Ralph Angel, you guys. But anyway, Nova takes her phone out and she starts taking pictures, and Ralph Angel was like, well, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm taking a picture to send to Charlie. And he's like, why? If she really wanted to see it, she'd have been here. Because we know that Ralph Angel, he's up and down about Charlie. He's always feeling some kind of way about her. It's like one minute he likes her, he appreciates her as long as she's doing for him and what he wants her to do. But then when something happens, like with Darla getting a job working for her, which he was uncomfortable with, we saw that on last episode, he has a problem with her. So that part of Ralph Angel's personality towards Charlie, I don't really care for. Now, Charlie has always gotten on my nerve too, but she's been trying to be a little bit better, especially with the way she handles him. So I am trying to ease up on her, but Ralph Angel is too summertime. And I guess if I were to compare that to real life, that's how spoiled people act. Spoiled people do that. They up and down, which as long as you're doing what they want you to do, they're happy. But the minute you're doing something they don't want you to do, they got a problem with you. So anyway, let me move right along. So he was trying to figure out why she was thinking so much about Charlie. But then Nova put him in check real quick. She said, my sister is making history today. And at this point, we don't know what's going on. We don't know where Charlie is. But he doesn't say anything, but Nova, in a gesture of love and compassion, she grabs his hand and she holds his hand, and they stand there and they continue to reflect. Okay, so the next scene shows Charlie. This is where Charlie is. Charlie is back at the mill, and she's on the site, actually out on the grounds of the plant or the mill. And you got Darla in the background talking on the telephone, carrying some paperwork. It's obvious that she's doing some work that like a personal assistant does. She's taking care of some type of business. You can see that. While Charlie is standing there with Micah, and they're looking up while a bunch of men are doing something. They're preparing something. It looks like they're fixing up the meal, but they are putting up a Queen Sugar sign. I said, oh, look at that, it's official now. The sign is going up. And I vaguely remember last episode Charlie saying that the grand opening of the meal was coming up. And so this is what we figure out eventually, that she's getting ready to have her grand opening reception. So she's standing out watching as they put the Queen Sugar banner / sign up, and she's talking to Micah, and they're kicking the bobo, whatever. That's what we call it down here, kicking the bobo. And she tells him to go head on and get dressed. So he leaves. And they change from that scene. The next thing you see is Nova and Ralph Angel are back at his house, or back at Ernest's house, which is now Ralph Angel's house. And she's in she's in Ernest's old office looking for something. And she yells to Ralph Angel, who's off in the kitchen. She's like, where's the certificate? As she's rambling through drawers and stuff. And so she finally sits down in her daddy's chair. She starts rubbing the handles on her chair, and she's having an emotional moment as she thinks about her father. And then she goes into the desk drawer and she starts going through some papers. Now, is it just me, or did y'all think that she was going to put her hands on that handwritten will that Ernest left? I was so afraid she was going to find that will, because I'm like Ralph Angel. I'm not ready for him to know either, because it's heavy. That's a little bit too heavy, and he don't know how they're going to deal with it. So he's been keeping it to himself. The only person he's told so far is Vi. So anyway, she rambles and rambles. I'm thinking she going to find it, but much to my surprise and to my relief, she pulls out what is a check that has not been cashed, that is made out to Ernest. She don't know what it's there for. She sees it's from some company. And so she goes into the kitchen and she asks Ra, who's in there cleaning up some water that's leaking from the refrigerator. He ain't paying her no attention, but she goes in and she says, you know anything about this check? And he tells her, I don't know nothing about it, but I know it sounds like it's enough. It's probably enough for me to get a new refrigerator. And she's like, what? Why would you, she's shocked that he would say that. And he's like, I'm just saying he needs a new refrigerator. So she is very perplexed, and she just stands there looking and everything. And I knew her wheels were turning. And the scene changes and it goes to Charlie. Charlie's in her office doing some work, writing out some stuff, when Darla ushers some man in that turns out to be a reporter by the name of Ben Harrison. Now, Charlie was expecting a reporter to come and interview her, but she was expecting some man by the name of Adam, somebody that her and Davis were used to dealing with in the past. And when she questioned this man, she's like, what are you doing here? Because she seemed to be a little disappointed and whatnot. And she was like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I'm filling in for the Adam guy because he's off in San Francisco interviewing some big tech mogul, some big guy that he's talking to. And so he's just there basically to take his place for a minute. So once again, Charlie's confused, but this Ben guy convinces her that everything's okay. He knows what he's doing. He's good, and he won't do her injustice. And so she sits down and she relaxes and she agrees to talk to him. But she's obviously still uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable because the man seems rather sneaky to me. The way he's looking at her, the way he's talking to her, his whole body language screams sneaky to me. So anyway, y'all, let me put my glasses on. So anyway, he starts he just jumps right into the interview, and he starts asking her questions that obviously she didn't expect. He starts asking her why she moved to New Orleans and why she actually moved from the West Coast in LA. And he was digging real deep in her private life, and Charlie was like, you jump right on in, you real direct, aren't you? And so he's digging in her private life and he's looking for a reason from her, but she's trying to convince him or tell him that she's there to carry on her father's legacy of running this sugarcane mill, because that's what she believes he would have wanted. But it's obvious that this reporter doesn't believe her. He thinks it's more to the story, and he don't want to talk about her daddy and what she believes his desires were. He wants to know the real reason. He's seeking something else from Charlie. And at this point, I don't trust the report. I'm like, why is he there? Why is he looking so crazy and so sneaky and so foolish? And Charlie doesn't trust him either, because in her mind, you are here to interview me about my daddy's legacy, this mill, and why I'm here. Basically, he's there to shine a light on her success as being the first black woman to open up a mill in New Orleans. At least that's what Charlie thinks, okay? So he's probing and digging, and you can tell he's very nosy, and you can tell he's gonna be a thorn in her side. He's after something, and he's gonna try to get what he wants, but we don't know what his motive is necessarily. We don't know what he wants to do with the story. If he's trying to help her, if he's trying to hurt her, you don't know this at this point. You just looking at him like, ugh, who is this crazy looking, this funny looking white man at this point, and why is he looking at her like that? Because after what they've dealt with the Landrys, it's like you can't really trust these people. When they come up on you like this. And y'all, this is not a racist comment. I'm just speaking from the perspective of what's going on in this show. They have had a lot of issues in New Orleans with people trying to railroad them, the Landrys and whatnot, and we don't know what this man's motive is. So anyway, suddenly Charlie is saved by the telephone call that Darla comes in to bring her. It's an important call that she was waiting on, and she tells the reporter, who agrees that he's gonna leave, and she says, yeah, we can pick up this interview later. So they'll finish it later on. So she was saved, at least in that moment. And y'all, you see at this point, Darla is really taking her job seriously, honey. I say, look at Darla doing the thing. Darla doing the darn thing. So anyway, the next thing you see is Vi is in the kitchen making her pies again. Ever since the last episode, if you remember, Hollywood convinced her to get back up and try it again, and she went off and she met up with a black diner owner who loved her pies, and we can only come to the conclusion that he agreed to sell her pies, or he agreed to buy her pies from her to be sold in his restaurant. Well, while she's there making her filling for her pies, Hollywood comes in with groceries because he's obviously made a store run for her. And she's checking with him to make sure he got everything that she needs. And he has. He's gotten all the lemon extract. He's gotten all the vanilla extract. Everything that she needed, he bought it. He tells her once again, he assures her, you know, I'm Hollywood. I can take care of this. And he can. Hollywood can do anything. I like Hollywood and I like him for her. I just don't know why they won't get married. I just wish they would go ahead on and get married. You know, because they're good for each other. He loves her. She loves him. And it makes sense. But anyway. So, as she's making her pies and talking to him, he's offering to help her as much as he can. And it's the next day, he alludes to the fact that the next day they're going to be having the, they're going to go visit Ernest's grave. They're going to have that graveside thing the next day. And, but she's mad. Aunt Vi is still mad with Ernest. Even though Ernest's dead and gone, she's mad at the fact that he left Ralph Angel the land, that farm, by himself. And she's feeling some kind of way because he didn't split it amongst all the siblings. You know how Vi is. So how she feels about family and how about being fair with family. So she's still mad with a dead man at this point. And she has pretty much, when Hollywood tells her that he'll deliver her pies for her a while, because he assumes that she's going to this graveside memorial that they're going to have, she tells him, no, I can do it myself. And he's like, huh? She's like, I don't plan on going to the memorial. She said, we done already buried him one time. Ain't no need for us to do it again. And of course, Hollywood's feeling some kind of way. He's looking at her. He's very disappointed with her. And he tries to convince her that she needs to go and pay her respects to her brother's memorial and his memory and whatnot. But Aunt Vi, she ain't feeling that. She's like, no, I ain't going to do it. Like I say, she's mad. So she walks on out the room and she leaves Hollywood in there feeling some kind of way. Hollywood is, like I said, disappointed in Aunt Vi. So then the next scene shows Nova. She goes to this place, this company that wrote this check out to Ernest. And she finds out that he had been working there, much to her chagrin, as a janitor. And this, you can see that this jolts her a little bit. She tells the lady that hands her, she hands him a box. She hands Nova a box that she found in his locker of all his belongings. And Nova tells the lady that she had no idea. And you can see, like I said, that it bothers her. The employer lady gave Nova everything that was in his locker, like I said. And Nova goes through it. She finds some rubber gloves that he used to use. She finds a picture of Blue and a couple of other things. And so she takes this. Once again, you could tell that she's feeling some kind of way about this. Not only because he was a janitor, but because she didn't know it. But we're going to kind of find out later on why she didn't know. Not just because he didn't tell her, but we're going to find out it's part of it is her fault too. So anyway, that same day, Charlie and Remy have met back up with that sneaky journalist by the name of Ben. And they're giving him a tour of the plant and all the machinery in there. And they're telling him about it and what they anticipate to get in revenue. And they're just doing, she's keeping her promise to finish the interview. But of course, he's looking around, he's digging, and he's picking at her and Remy. He's trying to figure out how come she's there with Remy instead of with Davis. Where's Davis? I see you here with everybody else, but I don't never see you with Davis. So he's insinuating that she and Remy have something going on. And he's still trying to get her to admit that her and Davis are not together. And you can't, at this point, you don't know why he's trying to get to the bottom of that, why it's so important to him and what he knows. It seems that he knows more about her situation than she's willing to admit. So he's digging and digging, but her and Remy, they talk to him and they let him know that they were kind of raised up together. And Remy tells him that Ernest, her father, treated him like he was a son, so they were kind of like siblings. They were good childhood friends, and so yeah, they're siblings, like brother and sister, and they let it go at that point. So then the next scene, you see Ralph Angel and Blue. They go to the convenience store. Y'all, did I speak too soon last video when I asked what happened with the situation with Ralph Angel when he robbed that convenience store in season 1? Like the first or second episode, and I was wondering why they hadn't brought that back up again. Well, y'all, I must have spoke too soon, because they were in a convenience store, him and little Blue, and they was in there buying some milk and juice or whatever, and Blue got that little raggedy doll in his hand, that little fake Kenya that Darla had bought him, the replacement Kenya, shall I say. And he goes up to the counter, and the woman sees him, and she recognizes Ralph Angel. Now, at first, Ralph Angel doesn't know who she is. He's like, I don't know you, ma'am. I don't know you. And she said, I remember you. She said, it's because of you that I lost my job. And he starts getting nervous and everything. And he gets Blue. He puts his money on the counter and he rushes out of the store. Because I think at that point, he does start to remember who she is. So once again, he has had an encounter with this woman. So I don't know what's going to happen. Is she going to tell on him? I kind of feel like Ralph Angel needs to go back to that girl and apologize to her and tell her what he was going through. Maybe she'll let it go at that point if he does that. Perhaps, I don't know. What y'all think? Should he go in there and say something to her? Or should he just stop going in convenience stores? Because he don't never know when he's going to run into her. But if he don't want this hanging over his head, he probably needs to go in there and at least apologize to her. Because it's possible that she might be a little bit sympathetic to his plight and understand why he did what he did. He might need to go ahead and try that. Catch off guard one day and just explain to her and tell her he's very, very sorry, and even pay the money back, offer to pay the money back to the store that he stole it from. So anyway, that's what happens. They rush on out, him and Blue. And then you see Darla is at work on the phone, and she's having a very stressful conversation with somebody. And in the conversation that she's having, I hear her say, I'm not hassling you. I'm not really hassling you. And at this point, she spills her coffee on her shirt. Now, at first, I didn't know who she was talking to. I'm like, who is that? That can't be anybody work related. So it dawns on me. She was talking to one of her parents. They didn't say this in the episode, but I figured that out on my own. Darla is actually more than likely talking to one of her parents. Okay, that's why she was so nervous. And that's when she said, I'm not hassling you. I think she was trying to get in touch or reach out to her parents at this point. So then when she spilled the coffee on her white blouse, she goes in. Remy and Charlie are in the office having a conversation while that's going on. And Charlie sits down and she's talking to him, and she starts to remind him she's feeling good at this point. And she starts reminding him of the advice that he gave her, and that he's a good friend, and that she took his advice and she started seeing a therapist. Of course, this blows Remy away. He's surprised and pleased at the same time. And so she sits down next to him and they're chit-chatting, and he can't believe that she actually went to a therapist. But while he's talking to her, Darla comes in, and that's when Remy actually jumps up and he leaves the office for him and for Darla and Charlie to have their conversation. Well, Charlie sees the coffee on Darla's shirt, because Darla's just standing there like a statue at this point, and she tells her to go on to, because they're at the mill, in that office, and she tells Darla to go on and change clothes. And Darla was like, no, that's all right. She was insinuating to Darla that she can go to her place, which is located on the mill property, and she can actually change into something of Charlie's. But of course Darla was like, no, you don't have to do that. She says, go ahead on. She gives Darla the keys. She's letting her know that she trusts her. So that's a very pivotal point in the episode too. Somebody is once again trusting Darla, which is something that she hadn't had in a long time, with somebody's trust. So she gave it to her. She told her to go on back to her house and change her clothes, find something else to wear, because this reception is coming up and she wanted her to look nice. So anyway, so when Darla gets back to Charlie's place, Micah is there getting dressed, and he's having trouble tying his tie on his shirt. And so Darla helps him to tie his tie. And he was like, where'd you learn to do that? And she told him from going to cotillions back when she was in school. I guess she learned how to tie. Her father taught her, or somebody taught her how to tie him back in the day. So anyway, he thanks her. Charlie calls him on the phone, and then he leaves. So then she turns around and she finds something to wear. She pulls out this little black dress, and she stands there and she looks, and she, you know, she's happy with her choice. And you understand that that is what she's going to wear. So anyway, they show Charlie back talking to the journalist in her office now. He's asking her about other white mill owners and how they feel about the fact that she's the first black mill owner, and being a black woman, which he didn't say, but that is understood that that is one of the things, an issue too. And he asked her, how do they feel about it? And she tells her she's not concerning herself with that because she's just trying to honor her father's memory. And the journalist isn't very happy with her response. So he gets to the nitty gritty. He starts probing once again into why she left LA. And he wants to know, the fact that you are carrying out your father's wishes, is that enough? Was that enough to keep you in New Orleans? Seriously? There's got to be something else, basically, is what he's saying. So he believes that there's more to her story, and that the story about honoring her father is only an excuse or a cover up to what's really going on in her personal life, which is interesting, but it is true. But is he in order? Is he right to be probing her about something that she's not willing to open up to him about? That's my question. So the journalist wants to write about, he lets her know that he wants to write about the real Charlie and her story. What he's doing is he's unwittingly bringing her full circle. He's bringing her full circle, and she don't even know it. He don't know it. And he's on his way to forcing her to have to be honest about the real reason that she stayed in New Orleans in the first place, which is her running away from what happened between her and Davis, instead of her facing it head on. Because we remember in last season, she paid off the girl that he was messing with, that he was basically pimping out to the other team members, which she shouldn't have done. I don't think she should have paid that girl off. She should have willingly paid that girl off like that. Yes, I know that girl was misled, and those boys probably did. Maybe they did rape her. I'm not sure, but I don't know. But there's three sides to that story, and I'm not gonna get all into that here. But Charlie, I just feel like the way Charlie handled it, paying the girl off as quickly as she was to try to cover it up and get it out the limelight when everybody already knows anyway. To me, that was not the best move on Charlie's part. So anyway, it was just an attempt once again for her to not take care of the business at hand, okay? So anyway, like I was saying, he's digging and probing with her like he always has. And she keeps insisting that, no, I am here only to do what my father would have wanted me to do. I'm trying to make things right with my father. But once again, he is not accepting that. So that night at the reception, or that evening at the reception, Hollywood is hassling Vi about her need to go to her brother's gravesite for the memorial. He's very displeased with her for that. And they actually bickering about it. Vi is telling him, you need to mind your business and stay out of mine. I don't like when they fuss, fight, and argue. Even though I know that that's a natural part of any relationship, I don't like that because it makes me think that something is going to happen between them, and I really don't want to see them fall out anymore, okay? It stressed me when they broke up the first time. But anyway. So anyway, they bicker a little bit about it. He walks on about his business, and she goes off in her direction to mingle a little bit. So Darla, meanwhile, Darla has changed into, once again, that little black dress. And she brings, when she comes back to the office to meet Charlie, she brings this huge, beautiful bouquet of flowers with her, Somebody has obviously delivered these flowers to Charlie's office. Charlie looks at them and says, "Ooh, they're so beautiful." And she thinks that it's from her mom, and it's her mom's makeup gift for not showing up to her event. I don't know what Charlie's mom is. I think it's more to, I don't think her and her mother are really on speaking terms either. She's just not telling that. But anyway, she thinks that they're from her mother. But when she reads the card, it turns out that they're from none other than Sam Landry. And on the card, he puts, "Welcome to the club." And you know you can't trust Sam Landry. We already know what he's done to them, how he's tried to come out on the farm and do stuff. We already know that. I believe he's the one that put them white flies out there too. Anyway, she's perplexed about it, and it definitely makes her nervous. If I was her, I would have sent them flowers right back to him, told him no thank you. So anyway, meanwhile, in the machine area part of the plant, Nova is telling Ralph Angel, and she's talking to Prosper. They're having a conversation, and she starts to tell Ralph Angel about the situation with the paycheck and that what she found out about Ernest. And at first, Prosper offers to leave and give him some privacy, but she says, "No, you family too." So she spills the beans. She tells Ralph Angel, she says, "You know, Daddy was working as a janitor / custodian. Do you know that he had stopped farming?" And so Ralph Angel is shocked and surprised. He didn't know it, but of course, just like Nova, he's feeling some kind of way. And but Prosper tells him, he said, "Yes, I knew he was working a job." But Nova, before that, Nova don't understand why Ra didn't know. She's like, "Why don't you know about him working?" He's like, "I don't know how I'm supposed to know, because Ra wasn't there with him every time, the whole time. Ra was off doing his own thing, and Ernest did a good job of keeping that a secret too." And we know Ralph Angel went off to prison for about 3 or 4 years. So there's a lot of stuff he probably didn't know about Ernest. So anyway, Prosper jumps in and he says, "Yeah," he said, "I knew he was working a regular job, but he never told me where he was working." So he didn't know that either. So Nova realizes that Ernest was ashamed to tell him that he was working and not farming anymore. She realizes this was something he kept secret on purpose. So then that night at the reception, in the main place where the guests were gathered, Charlie gives her presentation. She acknowledges Ralph Angel and Nova and the lands that she thinks that Ernest left, all of them. And at this moment, Vi looks over at Ralph Angel and gives him a strange look, because she knows the truth. And Ralph Angel's got this sort of solemn look on his face, because of course he knows the truth. And she does her ribbon cutting with the other two partners in what she's got going on. And she let the farmers actually from New Orleans run their sample of their cane. Some of her customers and Ralph Angel, she let him be the first one. They come and they put some of their sugar cane in the mill to get it started off. It's like a groundbreaking type of thing. And they run a sample of their cane through the mill. And so everybody's having a good time, and they're mingling and they're congratulating Charlie. Ralph Angel notices that Darla has on one of Charlie's dresses, and he's like, "Oh, so now you're wearing her clothes too." And that's when Darla says, "No, it ain't like that. I spilled coffee on my shirt and I needed to change clothes." And so he accepts that, and he tells her how good she looks. Y'all know Darla's so skinty. She's so little and skinny. I see why they picked her to play this role, because she looks real fragile. They did a really good job of casting her on this show, because she definitely looks fragile. So anyway, he tells her she looks nice eventually. And then while they're out there having a good time and everything, suddenly an alarm goes off, like a fire alarm, but it's just some kind of alarm to let you know that the machines aren't working right. And so at this point, Charlie gets all, it lets you know that there's some kind of malfunction going on with the machine as an equipment. And so Charlie gets all nervous and crazy and neurotic, and she runs up out the banquet and to the main plant. Nova, Ralph Angel, I want to say not Blue, but Micah, and all of them running there to see what's going on. Remy is in there, and she goes in there. She basically has a brief nervous breakdown, because one of the mills have clogged up. They had put too much sugar cane in it, is what Remy told, and the mill were working on unclogging it. But of course, Charlie can't see the stars, can't see the forest for the trees, and so she pulls off her jacket when they tell her that, and she starts by hand trying to unclog all of this sugar cane. I mean, she's just blowing everything out of proportion, because we know that Charlie is a perfectionist and failure is not an option for her. She does not do well with problems. She doesn't do well. So she's having her moment, and that's when Remy and Nova, everybody sees her losing it, basically. And Remy and Nova try to comfort her, and they convince her to let these machine operators do their job. Everything's going to be all right. But unfortunately, and unbeknownst to Charlie, that sneaky journalist has came in there. He had no business being in there, but he's lurking around, and he witnesses her breakdown. Darla sees him. Darla is like a guard dog, honey. She's in there too, and she blocks him. She told him, "You're not authorized to be up in here." But it was too late. He had already seen Charlie acting a fool at this moment. So she tells him to get on out of there. But at this point, Charlie doesn't know that the journalist has seen her. So Nova, after she has her breakdown, Micah, Nova, and Prosper, they done seen it too. After the ordeal, Charlie is talking to Nova by herself, and she's weeping about the fact that she didn't come to see Ernest when he asked her to come see him the last time. If y'all remember from episode 1, when he was talking to her on the phone, he was like, "Baby, when you gonna come see me?" And she made up some excuse because she was too busy and she didn't have time to come see him. And she feels very guilty about that. She's been holding in all this guilt all this time. It's basically, she's trying to make up for it. So while she's crying and expressing her guilt, Nova confesses and shares that she had not seen or talked to E in a long time. She doesn't remember the last time she actually saw him. She says all she knows is that when he went to the hospital, by that time, he couldn't talk anymore. And she's been holding in a lot of guilt about that too. See, nobody knew that Nova hadn't seen her daddy either. It had been a while. We don't know why. And maybe that's what the next episodes are going to show. Why in the world would Nova stay away so long from her daddy? What had he done to her? What was she mad about? Who stays away from their father like that and they live that close? Because she was living in New Orleans too. So there really was no reason why she should not have been in touch with her daddy. But I guess we're going to find that out later on too. So anyway, Nova and Charlie having this moment. Nova is lovingly wiping all of this sugarcane mess off of her hand. And I was just wondering, Nova feeling real guilty like she was. Is this the reason for her promiscuity? Is this why she was sleeping around so much? She's looking for love. She's trying to fill a void because she knows that she didn't do right by her daddy when he was living. That's what I'm thinking. That's one of the reasons. So anyway, Nova goes in to talk to Micah, who's confused and upset about what he has witnessed with his mother. And Nova tells him that this meal is important to Charlie and that it's all about him and her entire family. She's doing it for everybody. And failure is not an option for Charlie. So she's trying to console him and let him know, because Nova's good at that. She's good at talking to people and calming people down. She's very neutral in most cases. So then the next thing you see is Vi and Blue. They are standing there looking at Ernest's picture because they had the picture as one of the displays at the banquet or the reception that they were having. And they're staring at it, and little Blue says that it feels like he could just reach out and touch his granddaddy's skin. And he says, "I miss Papa." And so Aunt Vi says, "I miss him too." And of course, Blue being a child, he's like, "Why you miss him? He wasn't your Papa." She said, "No, he wasn't. He was my brother." And so that was a little moment that her and Blue shared. Remember now, she's supposed to be mad with Ernest, and maybe in that moment she decided to let the anger go. Okay? I think it was at that time that she decided to let it go. So then that sneaky journalist, his name is Ben, he runs into Charlie at the reception. And he asks, he says, "You okay?" And she says, "Absolutely." And she says, "Why don't you have anything to drink in your hand?" So she tries to convince him to get him an alcoholic beverage. And he's ignoring her, and he says, "Are you sure?" And he lets her know that he saw her breakdown when she asked about it. And he also lets her know, and this is the answer to why he keeps digging into her personal life. He lets her know that he was there when she found out about Davis cheating. Remember in season 1 when she was at the game and they were getting the text messages and the notifications on the phone? Everybody in there saw that he had been cheating, what had happened with him and the teammates and this girl. Well, she interrupted the game, and this man let her know that he was actually there when she marched into the middle of the basketball court and confronted Davis back in LA. And when he told her that, this threw her for a moment. He said, "But this breakdown I saw," he said, "it happened, I saw it, but this was a little bit more private than that." So he let her know. She was stunned. She had no idea. So at this point, you understand why he was so why he's so adamant about getting in her personal business, because he actually saw what happened between her and Davis back last year. So anyway, she tells him that this incident at the meal, it was private and it is off the record. Now she wants him to stop
being a reporter for a moment, and to just let her enjoy her night and her success. And when she asked him, she says, can't you just stop being a reporter for a little while? He says, not unless, only if you can stop micromanaging every aspect of your image. She insists that she's trying to make things right with her father again by honoring his memory, but the reporter instead tells her that what he sees is a woman that is used to projecting affection and control, but what she's actually doing is putting her family back together without either one of them. So what he told her was a good thing. What he told her was right. I'm beginning to realize that this reporter, as sneaky as he seems, what he's doing is really helping her. He's helping her. He's forcing her to face her truth. He wants to write the real story. He's not interested in printing lies or creating an image or a facade that she wants to create. He's interested in writing about the truth. We just don't know if he's for Charlie or against Charlie at this point. So he wants to write about her humanity. He wants her to be real. Tell people what the real Charlie is all about. So she relents, and she makes a deal with him that if he writes her story her way, you know, about honoring her father's memory, that she would actually give him an exclusive story on what has happened with her and Davis. And she tells the reporter, yes, I am divorcing Davis. The reporter seems to be stunned, and he's like, oh yeah. And she said, I'll give you an exclusive. So the journalist seems to be pleased with this arrangement, at least for now. And I realized, I said, okay, he could write a story. If he's a good writer, he could either write two separate stories, one about Charlie and the mill and her story the way she wants it written, which is not a total lie. And then he could write a separate story about her personal life, one that would showcase or focus on Charlie and what happened in her private life that actually propelled her to at least come to New Orleans. He could write two separate stories, or he could write those two separate stories into one story and allow the readers to draw their own conclusions. To me, that's what a good writer does. They allow people to draw their own conclusions. They don't necessarily say anything concrete because he doesn't know her like she knows her, but they can lead other people. If you write things in such a way, people will get the idea and they can draw their own conclusions from it, okay? That way, no blame will be placed on him. So anyway, so then Charlie, after everything is over, Darla goes to Charlie's place, and she lets her know that everything's squared away. Everybody's been paid that was owed. And she tells Charlie that that day was a good day for her. Because, you know, usually with addicts, that people that are in recovery, they take everything one day at a time. And they say, today was a good day. And that's what she was letting Charlie know. But Charlie was like, I don't know. She begs to differ. She says, because of what happened at the mill, how she lost it and everything, Darla assures her that everybody loses it sometime and that it's okay. And Charlie tells her, well, you hadn't met my mother. And then Darla says, you hadn't met my dad. So in this moment, Charlie realizes she ain't the only one that's got problems. You're not the only one that deals with certain things. Other people dealing with the same thing. Because, you know, a lot of times when we going through things, especially if we're real selfish and narcissistic like Charlie can be, we think we are in a world by ourselves, that nobody is going through it but us. But the reality is other people go through things sometimes a lot worse than what you go through. And this is what Darla was bringing to her attention at this moment. And I really love this scene between her and Darla, because I saw some things about Darla that we had never seen before, okay? We see that she has a past, she has a soul, and this is the root of, we're trying to see what the root of her problems are, and she's finally beginning to open up. She, for whatever reason, she's beginning to trust Charlie, because when Charlie showed her that she trusts her by giving her the keys to her house, Darla says, I guess if she trusts me, I can trust her a little bit, and so I'm going to begin to open up to her. So anyway, Darla says, you don't know my dad. And so Charlie realizes that they have actually succeeded in what they set out for that day. She said, we did it. And she wants to celebrate the occasion. And what she does is she gets up and she gets some wine out in 2 glasses. But then she looks at Darla. Darla's giving this strange look. I'm like, I don't think that'll be good. And so Charlie realizes that it wouldn't be good for Darla's sobriety for her to drink wine. And so she apologizes to her. She says, I'm so sorry. And she says, how about some iced tea instead? And Darla tells her that'll be great. So Darla sits down and tells her, she says, I've been sober for almost 2 years, and there's going to be a ceremony for that. And she invites Charlie. She lets her know that Ralph Angel's going to be there and everything. But she says, I just wanted to know if you wanted to come too. Will you be there? She wants her to share in her celebration of her sobriety, which is very special to Charlie. And Charlie's thankful that she's actually inviting her. And she tells her, I wouldn't miss it for the world. She said, yes, I'll be there. So she agrees to come to her sobriety ceremony. Okay. So the next thing you see, Nova and Vi they're outside. This is obviously the day when they're going to have the memorial for Ernest, and they're out there looking at that same gravesite sign Nova and Vi are. And no, they're actually at Nova's mom's gravesite because she's buried out there too, while the rest of the family is out there getting ready to do their thing for Ernest's memorial. So these two have separated from them, and they're standing out there talking. And Nova says that mom didn't want a headstone. And she says, but she's free now. And Vi tells her, you know, I miss her. And Nova says, I miss her too. Or Nova says, I miss her. And Vi says, you know, I miss her too. So they have their little moment. So then the next thing you see is all of them are standing around Ernest's grave, and they're doing their ceremony. And this preacher, he's up there blessing the grave. And when he gets through blessing the grave, Nova does her ritualistic prayer thing that always scares me. But she gets up there and she does it. It's a nice moment, though. Everybody's pleased and happy and at peace, at least at that moment. And while they're talking, Blue drops his doll. And he reaches down to pick it up. But he changes his mind and he looks real strange. And he decides to leave it on the ground, which was very strange. He would never have left Kenya on that ground like that, okay? Like I said, it was odd. I'm like, well, maybe he's getting over the dog. Well, anyway, we're going to find out what's really going on in a minute. So after everything is over, when they get back to Vi's house, Blue had obviously ran on ahead. Ralph Angel and Vi and them are going in the house, and as they're walking up the hall, he's yelling, looking for Blue. And he hears somebody sniffling and crying, and he goes into the living room area, and there is Blue hiding behind a curtain, crying because he has realized that that doll that he had is not the real Kenya. He says the real one had a birthmark that he had given to her himself. And so Ralph Angel at this point, he's like, dog, I need to go and tell the truth. And he tells him that Kenya got thrown away. And he said, that's not Kenya. Your mama bought you a new one. And Blue says, did Kenya do something wrong? And Ralph Angel told him no. He said, did I do something wrong? And Ralph Angel told him no. And this was a very sweet, precious moment, but I was still kind of glad that they were having a little conversation about this doll. Maybe Blue is gonna let this doll go at this point. I hope he puts that doll down, because even if it just don't look right for him to be attached to a doll like that. Okay, it just ain't right. It's a sign of some type of insecurity, and I don't want to see the child be insecure for the rest of his life. Okay, so anyway, he says, no, you haven't done anything wrong. And he said the dog got thrown away by mistake. And so Blue, at that point, they hug each other, and Blue asked Ralph Angel why the lady at the store called him a liar. See, children be paying attention when we don't think they're paying attention, and they have memories like elephants. When they want to know something, they might forget a little while. But when it's going to come up again, and they're going to ask you about it. But he asked her why the lady at the store called him a liar. But Ralph Angel doesn't really answer him. He just tells him, I'm not lying anymore. He said, I promise you, I'm not lying anymore. So that was a sweet moment between Ralph Angel and Blue. I always like to see him with his child, except when he's petting him and babying him. But when he's being a father, I love it. So then the next thing you see is that night they're getting ready to have dinner, like most black people do after funeral services or anything like it. You know, we have get-togethers and parties a lot after we have events like that. They're sitting down, getting ready to say their prayers. And Aunt Vi, this is where things take a turn for the worse, y'all. It starts off beautiful. Aunt Vi asks Ralph Angel to pray. He objects at first because apparently he's not used to praying, but then they convince him, and he starts to pray, and he starts talking about Ernest in his prayer, and he vows to be a better man. Now he sits down, he says, I'm tired of lying. So this is where he starts wanting to tell everything and tell the truth. Aunt Vi realizes what he's about to say, and she tries to change the subject. She's like, keep on praying, baby. But Ralph Angel interrupts his prayer. He says, I hadn't been honest with y'all. I need to tell y'all something. And that's when he tells everybody about this handwritten will, or he tells Charlie and Nova about the will that Ernest left, and how he left all the land to Ralph Angel and none to them. This is the moment of truth for Charlie and for Noah. And this is where motives start to be shown. And we know how things happen when we go to funerals, how our families act. You know, it's usually no will left when we go to our family's funeral, but we will fight over some stuff when somebody died. Who gonna get what and why somebody got. This is where this episode really came full circle for me, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm a part of this family, because I have seen this so many times in my life growing up, especially in my childhood. I done seen grown people fight at the funerals and at the wakes. It really hit home for me, and I understood exactly what was going on, and I knew exactly what was fixing to happen next. So the next thing you know, Charlie is accused Ralph Angel. She said, "You've lied to me." She accused him of lying to her. And so at this point, Vi realizes it's finna get ugly, and she tells Micah to take Blue outside. Charlie accuses Ralph Angel of trying to use her and her money. So Darla jumps in, and she defends Ralph Angel. She says, no, he wasn't trying to use you or your money. She actually got a little attitude with Charlie. And at this point, I said, oh, Darla, you know you done effed up, don't you? You know you done messed up. Because that was a bad move on her part. You just got this decent job with Charlie. That wasn't your business. She should have stayed out of that. She should have stayed out of that. As a matter of fact, when Micah got up and left with Blue, she probably should have went with him, because she's not in their family yet. And she should not, she just should have got up and left. It would have been better if she had remained neutral and stayed out of this. I can see her possibly being fired. If, you know, if things remain the way they are, Darla gonna lose her job. Okay? That's what I see for her. So that was a bad move for her to jump in. So then Charlie is shocked. She's like, oh, you knew about this too. So then Nova chimes in about the fact that Ernest was working as a janitor, because at this point, Charlie them didn't know that he was working as a janitor. She said he was working as a janitor talking to Nova, because she mad, not Nova, she was talking to Ralph Angel. She's mad with Ralph Angel. She says, you know, Daddy was working as a janitor to feed your son, I guess while he was locked up. And he wasn't farming anymore. So this fact devastates Charlie even further, because she felt like she uprooted herself from Los Angeles. Nova is blaming Ralph Angel too, like it's his fault. Ralph Angel feels like it was unfair for them to put that burden on him. He was like, y'all gonna put all this on me? They act like he asked for him to give him that land. He didn't know either. And they should understand why Ralph Angel didn't want to tell him. He didn't want to tell him for that very reason, because of the way that they were acting that night at that table. They didn't even see that. They so selfish. All they could see is what they want. And it made me wonder, okay, Charlie, so you telling me the only reason that you opened up that mill is because you think, because that land you thought was left to you? Y'all don't understand why he left that land to Ralph Angel. You weren't even there. Okay? And he knew that y'all weren't going to want to work any land, but he knew Ralph Angel would work the land. That's the reason why he left the land to them. So anyway, I was getting mad at this point with Nova and with Charlie. So, then Ralph Angel, who's crying at this point too, and he tells him it ain't his fault. He said, I don't know why y'all putting this burden on me. He reminds Nova and Charlie that they had moved away. They were living their own lives. He tells Nova that she barely even passed by the farm, even though she only lived 20 miles away. Of course, at this point, Nova gets mad. She jumps up, she gets loud, and she gets angry. And she says, you don't know that. How would you know that? She says, you were hardly here yourself during those years. Of course, he was locked up. And Ralph Angel tells her, he says, it's sad that you can fight for every brother in prison except your own. And that's what she says, that you put yourself in prison. So apparently, you know, Nova only tries to help those that she believes is innocent. That's what she was saying at that point. But she was letting Ralph Angel know, you was guilty of what you did, so you deserve to be in prison. That's what she was saying to him. So at this point, you know, I understand this was a very heated moment. It was a very heated moment. Like I said, the show took a turn. We don't know for the worst or for the best. But it's good that everything is out in the open. I always think that when the truth comes out, it's always better. I don't care how much somebody's feelings get hurt. The truth will set you free, even if it devastates you, okay? So it was good that all of this came out. They didn't need to keep hiding this secret, because now it's going to show the real Charlie. It's going to show the real Nova. If they really love each other, they'll band together, okay? Ralph Angel, I don't believe, is trying to keep anything from them. Remember now, he's trying to be a better man. So he's not trying to keep anything from him, and they need to stop thinking that way. They need to go on. Anyway, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop, because I'll start preaching in a minute. So anyway, like I said, I understand that Charlie and Nova are upset, but they mad at the wrong person. the person they mad at is dead and gone. So they need to figure out how they're going to pick up. So Charlie jumps up. Well, Nova starts to leave. Charlie gets up to go behind her. Aunt Vi gets up and tells her, no, you cannot leave. Vi is like, you can't, Nova's like, you can't stop me, Aunt Vi. Aunt Vi's like, no, you need to stay here and y'all need to settle this. And they did. They needed to settle. They did not need to leave at this point. So it was a rough situation. I think she convinced Nova not to leave. So everybody went back and sat down. They mad now. They mad. Everybody mad. Everybody hot. Ralph Angel's not so much mad as he is hurt. They blaming him as if he did something. She feels like he used her. Telling me, you didn't have no problem using my money. And he said, see, I knew it. I knew this was about money. But everybody had different talents. She had the money and the business mind. He had the ability to work the land. I don't know what Nova's purpose is. Maybe to help out, to be a farmhand, but all of them together can do exactly what they need to do. All they got to do is come up with some type of agreement where they can all benefit from this land. Okay, so what? Ralph Angel has the land willed to him. But all y'all are in business. You the one with the business, Charlie. See, I got mad at this point. I don't know about y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think. This episode was super deep. That was pretty much the end of the episode after the dinner scene. And I am really feeling some kind of way about this. I cannot wait till next week to see what's going to happen. Because I don't want to keep being mad with Nova and with Charlie. I know Ralph Angel has done his thing and he has had some attitude towards Charlie, but it is not his fault that Ernest left that land to him. And furthermore, it's Ernest's land. He could do anything he want with it. It was his. Okay? People kill me getting mad with folk for doing what they want with their own stuff. And Ernest did. He's the father. They're the children. They need to respect his decision. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that there. It's been almost an hour on this video. Y'all put your comments. Please put them down in the comment section and let me know what you think. Please let me know what you think. I probably have missed something. I know I sounded like I was rambling as usual, but I tried not to leave anything out of this episode. But this is, to me, has been the episode that has flowed the most. Okay? It has flowed the most. We are seeing Charlie really for who she is. And Nova too. So anyway, y'all, until next time, I will talk to y'all soon. So much going on in the media with these blogs and the news and whatnot. Ooh, R. Kelly, OJ, Mike Vick, Kevin Hart. Oh, it's just awful. So much stuff is coming out. Usher around here letting it burn for real. But anyway, I'm going to say that for another video. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.